Welcome back to the channel. I pulled the 4x4 bug out RV in so that I could kind of go over some things. I have a lot of common questions on it. And one of the main common questions I get, I can't actually honestly answer yet until today. And that's how much it weighs. So we're going to do 4-corner weight on it. So that's coming up here in a minute. But first, let's go over some of the other questions, common questions that I get. And then also I'm going to tell you some things I wish I would have done different on it, because there are some things after doing it that I'm like, that was the long about expensive way of doing that, that I do different. So the very first thing I want to address is the question of what type of paneling is that and where did I get it? That is called ACM, aluminum composite material. Aluminum, composite, sandwiched together. Now the aluminum comes coated bright white. I don't know if it's paint or powder coating or what it is, but it's a very tough white finish. And it's shiny. It's like commercial fleet white. And then it's wrapped in 3M vinyl. And I pre-wrapped it all before putting it on the RV or even cutting it or anything like that. So as to where you get it, I would check your local sign manufacturer first, someone who makes signs for commercial buildings. They'll be able to get it, and they'd also probably be able to wrap it for you. So that, because they'll have equipment so they can do it a little easier than you can do it. If you want to do it all yourself or you want to leave it bright white, check just Google your local plastic supplier and ask them. They'll ask you how thick you want it. I used 4mm, which is the standard thickness. They do make a 3mm and a 6. You don't need 6, but you might be able to get away with a 3. And I'm just cutting the windows out with a flush cut router bit. Something I regret. This Dana 60 in the front is from an early 2nd gen Ram. Those things suck. And it's not the diff part of it, but they have that axle disconnect on the side, and I removed it. And I put a new axle shaft in that's one piece, got the whole thing assembled, used the manual hub conversion for that axle. By the time I was all said and done, I should have just bought a later 2nd gen Dana 60 that doesn't have the axle disconnect, because then I would have had the better brake setup, which is slip-on rotors. Take caliper off, you can slip the rotor on. These are pressed on from the back side. So to change my rotor, I have to take everything apart and press it on from the back side. That's the way they did it on this axle. On the newer axle, and the reason I'm pointing that way is because we have the newer axle under our new project there. The newer Ram axle doesn't have the disconnect, has slip-on rotors, and has much simpler setup. So I also converted that one to manual hubs and no more unit bearings, just like this one. So we have serviceable bearings, which I don't regret. And now that it's done, it's fine. It's just not the path I would go down again. I would get rid of it. I would get the later 2nd gen. And something that I don't regret at all is my 12-volt awning. I love that thing. That is like the best. I believe it's an Awning Lux. I'll put a link down in the description below. But man, if you need an awning or you have an awning and you think you might just need new fabric, just throw the whole thing away and get one of these. Comes with new fabric. These are so much better. That's what I was going to do. I was going to rebuild that whole awning setup, and it needed one part on the end that was $300 and some, and I already had bought the new awning. So I'm like, I'm just going to buy it and I'm going to fix it. And then I was looking at these 12-volt awnings, the electric awnings, and it's like, why would I even mess with this thing? So I threw it in the garbage and I put this on, and now I have an extra cover for it because I still have the fabric that I bought for the old one. One other regret I have, or something that I would do different in the future, or if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't put 1200 amp hours of battery in it again. I think it was a waste. I really had to shoehorn the stuff in there. It's like super tight which is good. I mean, it's fine. It's tight in there, but I ended up having to put a ton of the electronics behind the driver's seat. And had I only ran 800 amp hours of batteries, I would have had all that space to do a lot of the electronics. And I think it would have been better. It would have been simpler to wire. I don't need 1200 amp hours, I don't think. After our first outing, when we had zero, I didn't run a generator. I didn't have really any solar because we were under trees. It was hot and humid. The AC was running full blast nonstop for like 24 hours. It was 77% remaining when we left. So it was less than a quarter of my battery of the 1200 amp hours in one day with no auxiliary input. One regret a little bit that I have is the front AC. I converted this to 12 volt DC and it all works good. And it was a fun learning experience, but It's a system that I don't really even need. And being that this is a bug out RV, the point of it is to kind of be on the more simple side. And I have complexity up here that is unnecessary. With my rear 12 volt AC, I really don't need a front AC. And I made it 12 volt just because the conversion when we're doing it, the AC compressor physically wouldn't fit the engine driven one. So I ran a 12 volt battery powered one, got it all hooked up and fixed up and was pretty proud of it. But it's one of those things I probably won't really, I'll use it, but if I didn't have it and I just ran that rear AC, it would be just fine. Now, the way I did my power input and inverter. So I already had a really good inverter on hand, like I had it here. And so I used it and then I kind of designed around it. And I'm going to undo all that. I'm going to replace the battery charger and the inverter with an auto switching inverter battery charger. So that way, when I plug in to shore power, it auto switches so that all my 110 volt accessories are automatically just running off shore power or generator or whatever we're hooked to. And the battery charger automatically just charges the batteries. And the reason it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but it gets actually a little bit confusing when you go to hook up to shore power. Like when I went to store this for the winter, I plug it in shore power and I'm like, okay, now I need my engine battery to charge. So I had to go throw breakers. I had to unplug. I was running mouse deterrents inside, which run on electric. And so I wanted those to run, but I didn't want them running off the inverter. So I wanted them running shore power. So then I'm unplugging stuff and plugging it in weird. And I had to make adapter connectors. And I'm like, what am I doing? Anyway, super complicated. You probably didn't follow along, but that's why I'm switching it to a plug it in, done type charging system. It's confusing and it's really hard to explain. And now you know exactly why I want to get rid of it. Another regret or I wish I would have done it different is the stairs going into it. And they're fine if you come at the RV from the outside. But you usually don't. You kind of park and then you walk to the back. Well, I can't nicely put my stairs down from the inside. So I have to open the door, fling it open while the stairs are up, and then just shove the stairs down so they go slam into the ground. It's not really even possible to do it. I'd have to put a rope on it so I could like lower them slow. Anyway, so I have to get out, go around, and open it from that way. That's just kind of dumb. I feel like I could come up with a better set of stairs and a better system. And it'd be really nice if the stairs weren't on the inside as well while we're driving around. I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. And I got most of the rattles taken care of in it. But it's just kind of annoying having them inside. And anytime you hit like a pothole or something, you can hear them jar around and stuff. So anyway, I'd like to do something different with those. And I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. Even if it was something that could stow away that I just set up, like the old pickup campers were, where you had like your stairs that you stick on and then you take them off, fold them up, slide them in a cubby. Even if it was something like that, I'd be probably totally okay with. Because at least I could open the door from the inside and jump out. I get some people who ask about these. And to be perfectly honest, if I drove by you off-road, you'd probably hear it. You can't hear them from inside. And there is a trick, and I actually need to replace them because half of it must have fell out or something. But I put a hose in there and I cram it in there, and it usually keeps them pretty tight. And for some reason, the hose shrunk since I've done it, so they're not tight anymore. But normally when I cram that hose in the back, I just split a hose lengthwise. It makes these real stiff, so if I set it like this, it would just stay like that. So I could push it down there and it just stays. It's not swinging around. So that's something people comment on every once in a while. But I've never noticed those things rattle driving around. But I'm sure if you were outside of this and I drove by you going over a washboard or something, you'd probably hear them. One more con or thing I wish I would have done different. I made it so that I can remove the body from the chassis on this. Unnecessary. These are unibody from the factory. And on my next build, because I regretted doing it this way, I actually morphed the frames together. So it's still unibody, and the ram frame, it's a shortened ram frame. I modified it quite a bit on this one. But the ram frame is actually morphed into the unibody frame. And I wish I would have done the same on this one. There's no reason to have to remove the body from the frame. I was thinking to take the engine out, it would be nice if I NASCAR'd it or funny car'd it, where you could funny car it up a little bit to get the engine out. It's not necessary. You don't need to move the body. If I were to take the engine out right now, even though it does disconnect, I wouldn't disconnect it. It's just more effort than it's worth. It's not hard to get the engine in and out anyway. There's so much space in here. In fact, my head gasket repair that I already had to do on it because of my timing error that I did, the head gasket was easier on this than it was in a Ram by tenfold. I take the driver's seat out. I did all the work sitting on the floor in there, and the block and the floor are the same height. So once I pull the head and pulled the studs out, you were able to I just put cardboard over the floor. I just lifted the head and set it straight onto the floor, got out of the van, pulled it out, and I had the head. And anyone who's messed with these Cummins heads, you know they're really, really heavy. One more thing, I'm adding this in after the fact. The e-brake on this, I used an electric e-brake motor that I've used on other rigs. Oh, I have it on the Safari wagon. And it worked good on the Safari wagon. It's not powerful enough for this. It doesn't pull the brakes hard enough. So I'm going to have to come up with a different way, because right now I park it and it'll hold it on a slight grade. You don't trust it, but it holds it on a slight grade. But anything, even just outside my driveway door and that where it's kind of steep, it won't hold it. I have to turn it off, put it in gear. And that's not good. So then I'm chalking the tires and all that stuff. So I need to come up with a stronger e-brake. So there's that too. All right, guys. And the last thing, my pre-filter. I wanted to run the Cyclone, which is what AEV uses, and that's what I've used before. I physically couldn't fit it because the door won't open because it's so big. And I got this one. This was for like a tractor of some sort. It doesn't work. It was throwing my gauge to clogged air filter almost immediately. And so I ended up taking the fan and all the internals out of it, and I drilled a bunch of holes in it so that it'll flow enough. So anyway, that is now just a fancy cover for the snorkel. So it's just like a normal snorkel now with no pre-filter, which sucks, but it is what it is. Those aren't necessary. It's just nice. All right, guys, now we'll get some weights on it. So I'm just using Austin's scale here. It's only single wheel, so you got to make sure it's level when you do it. We got 2462 on the front left. Front right, we got 2320. So that's a little lighter than I thought it was up front. That's pretty good. So we'll get our blocks out, and then we'll go measure our back. All right, guys. So I'm jacking up the rear. I have it off the ground. I'm just using that Badlands 3-ton to lift the whole thing. I'm going right in the middle. And it is right at the cusp of hitting the blow-off valve or the relief valve on the jack. Now, the jack has a relief valve to make sure you don't lift up something too heavy for it. And it is right there. It's not dropping it. It's just if I try to move the handle down too fast, it goes in the relief valve, which tells us you're really close to that 3-ton or wherever they have it set at. My guess is they have it set real close to 3-ton. They don't want you overloading the jack, obviously. So it's going to be an interesting test because I am right there and I am off the ground. But to go up high enough to get this thing under, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it because it's not liking going up at this rate. Plus, I have to be underneath the van to jack it, which I don't really like doing either. All right, so we'll do this with a 4-ton instead. I don't really want to figure out how far this thing bounces if the jack fails. So you got to use the jack. If you don't put the blocks in, the sway bar will screw up your numbers. So you got to be level. 37, 34 on the right side. I think the left side should be heavier because it has the batteries and our rescue cans and stuff in it. 38, 82. So that's not too bad. All right, guys. So 47.82 on the front, lighter than I thought on the front. 76.16 on the rear, heavier than I thought on the rear. So basically, it weighs 102 pounds less than I thought it would. It weighed 1,211 pounds when I got it as a 2-wheel drive Chevy van full of crap. Now it weighs 12,398 pounds as this thing full of crap, other than water. It doesn't have any water in it right now, so you got to add 300 pounds for water. We don't want to add any weight to the rear ever. 8,400 is my most I can have on my rear. I don't ever want to add that. Everything I put that's beyond the rear axle is compounding. So that'll 100 pounds behind the rear axle, depending on where it is. Say it'll take 20 pounds off the front weight and add 20 pounds to the rear plus the 100 you just put in. So it's all that overhang is always compounding. Now I did extend the wheelbase of this thing when I built it. So it used to be even worse farther forward. So, and it did feel that way actually driving it around, but it also had a lot of crap in it. And a lot of it was rear of the axle. So how did we only add 400 pounds to this thing? A lot of it was deducted and crap that we took out of it and threw away. AC unit is quite a bit lighter, the Country Mod 12 volt AC. We don't have that giant gen set anymore. We chopped off a pretty big section up front over the cab, which is too bad we couldn't have done that in the rear. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to think that we only added 400 pounds to it, but 99% of it was all the crap that was in it. It's had a lot of crap. If you saw the video, the pile pulled out of it. It was never ending. It was like, oh my God, but they had it. I think it was in the family for years and years and years and years and years. And it's probably like, get new pots in my kitchen. I'm like, oh, this would probably be nice in the RV. In the RV it went. So anyway, there's probably most of the stuff like that. But is Austin's scale wrong? No, Austin's scale's right. If anything, I would say Austin's scale says it weighs more because that thing was ridiculously heavy for what I thought it should weigh. That was like 1,000 pounds heavier than I thought. Literally. That little van, it's just a shell right now with the Cummins and all that stuff. It's 6,500 pounds the way it sits. It's not even done. It's going to be the same as a crew cab Ram. It's pretty much complete, but it needs bumpers, roof rack, interior, doors, windows, the door windows and the front windshield. There's seems like 1,000 pounds of stuff left to go on it, and that puts me right at the same weight. So I don't know, whatever. Anyway, thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one. Follow along for that build and follow along for this. We got a couple upgrades to do to it, and then I got to decide if I'm going to sell it or not. I don't usually sell anything I build, but I have a lot of money tied up in this, and I don't need it, even though it's really cool. But I really don't need it. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.